Hello. Oh, great, it works. We're going to do my turn, your turn. This is an early childhood trick. I'll say this. Name it. Oh, this is a smart crowd. Feel it. Close the loop. Oh, great crowd, great crowd. So it was April 2020, blue skies. It was flowers blooming, plenty of pollen in the air. We love that, right? And did I mention it was 2020? So a little different from today. In 2020, we all learned to do things differently. If you remember, there was some disconnection between us and the world. We learned to connect through platforms, through applications, through devices, but the connection wasn't natural at first. Late in the afternoon in April in 2020, I received a call from a principal that I truly respected. At the time, I was a superintendent of schools. The principals were under my purview. They were people I was supposed to support and guide. So when I received this call from this principal, who I really trusted, her background, she was a licensed clinical social worker, which tells you something about her. In the time of crisis, she was awesome. You know, she would be somebody I would call first. So she's calling, I pick up, and I hear the tone of her voice is very different. I actually sensed some hesitation, and I interpreted it as almost a lack of confidence to somebody who was extremely confident in crisis. And I said, "What are you about to tell me?" And she shared, a terrible tragedy occurred. One of our students, one of her students in her school, had passed. And I paused just to think about what she normally would do. What she normally would do is just go into crisis gear, crisis motion. She would deploy counselors, grief counselors in the school and the buildings, but nobody was in the school or the buildings. She would walk assertively up and down the hallway, checking the classrooms, making sure everybody was okay, but she couldn't do that either. What made great principals great was that they reached out to the community as well. I remember in the past when we had situations like this, which were terrible, she would go to the home, knock on the door, hug the parents, sit with them on the couch, help plan what was to come, which was a terrible next few days. But she wasn't able to do this. You see, her confidence was in the motion that occurred afterwards. But during COVID, we weren't even able to go to someone's house. In fact, there wasn't even a service afterwards. At the time, I felt her pain. I felt she was going through something. But as a superintendent, I didn't know what the name of that was at the time. I just knew she needed more than I can give her. In the days and the weeks to come, there's actually a name for it, which we'll share today and we'll talk about. And it's the reason why I'm standing here today to talk to you about this. Yes, it's a picture of a highway, a road, and it's not a metaphor. This is a road that a young teen headed out on one night, and the world didn't teach him that he shouldn't, that there was a risk. And as a result, he lost his life. You see, the principal, because she couldn't put things in motion, started to absorb this. Every conversation she had after this with students, with families, she started to absorb their grief because she couldn't put it in motion. She started to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning thinking about it. What happened? This is a terrible. What was he feeling at the time? Waiting for help? So when I learned of this, I learned she stopped coming to work during this time too. I met with her and I talked to her and I said, listen, human beings, we're built for certain things. We are not built to live in someone's worst case scenario permanently. We've got to get you to put stuff in motion to get it out. What I learned at that time through research is that there was a name for what she was experiencing, and it's called emotional contagion, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Through a landmark meta-analysis done with 73 studies published in a Q1 journal, 73 studies, 21,000 participants talking about burnout, talking about empathy. And in this study was interesting. It came out to 3 different tiers. You see, her empathy leaned toward one of these tiers. But I didn't know it at the time, so I couldn't guide her and provide the support that she really needed. The first tier that this landmark meta-analysis revealed was cognitive empathy. Now, we've all had experiences probably with each of these in our life, but cognitive empathy is really different. And then the question is, for this study, it was like, well, what type of empathy should school leaders, because this is all service-oriented, should nurses, should those who serve others, and what type of empathy should they feel? We'll start with cognitive empathy. Cognitive empathy is something where you listen and you understand, but it's pretty obvious that you actually are not feeling what they're going through. Sometimes this can be interpreted as somebody being very cold. And some people say, well, it's good for me to have this emotional glass wall in front of me and somebody else so that I don't absorb their feelings. But there's many times where people want you to feel what they're feeling. So a cognitive empathy in terms of burnout and risk is pretty low because you have a barrier between you and somebody else. And this is why I think this is important, not just for school leaders, for everybody to understand. It may protect you, but it's not the most successful intervention or way to deal with people in grief or in any situation. The one in the middle there in this meta-analysis was compassion, empathy. And I put it in the center because it's the center of it all. It's actually the ideal. When we look at this, it's others-oriented, which means it's aimed at other people. It's when leaders or service industry, it's nurses, when they actually hear, they understand, they absorb some of the feeling. And here's where I go back to my principle. In compassion, empathy, they have an outlet. They have the ability to put something in motion. It was like our student who was just up here today. She talked about the experience she had. She started putting something in motion, which is like a recovery mechanism, which reduces your risk for burnout. This is critically important to people, especially if they're experiencing tragedy in their life. But it actually is important in your everyday conversations you have with individuals. And the last one, I guess you can guess this, emotional contagion. This is what this principal was feeling. She not only absorbed that pain, your pain is my pain, it doubled her emotional load, but all exits were sealed. She couldn't get rid of it. This one is dangerous, high risk for burnout. So in these three tiers, we'll focus, we're going the other way. Hold on. I'm not finished yet, so there were a couple more slides in there. But that's okay. I think I could recall the rest. So with compassion, empathy, there are certain tiers that exist. So when they measure burnout, and this is important for you all because in schools and higher education and industry, we keep hearing people are burnt out, especially post-COVID. You say, oh, yeah, well, there's a lot going on. Everybody's burnt out. So in looking at emotional contagion and trying to move away from that, we jump into compassion, empathy. And what are the principles for burning out? You see, compassion, empathy allows you to understand other people, but it also allows you to understand their purpose and value in life. That's one of these principles. Compassion, empathy is like, I know why I come to work each day. It also measures exhaustion. So they have something called the burnout inventory, very creative, and it measures burnout. And they're saying that those in compassion, empathy, they are more likely to have more energy, to be more enthusiastic what they're doing. They're less exhausted, that they have meaning and purpose, and they're less cynical. And I share this because when we live in compassion, empathy, think about the ideal leader, ideal workplace, ideal person. So they're less exhausted, they're less cynical, and they understand their purpose. This is what we strive to be. So for leaders experiencing stress and burnout, think about how cynical you are. Think about how exhausted you are. And maybe you're steering away from your purpose. That means you're entering that emotional contagion. We got to get you out of it. So my steps today for all of you is this. We may not understand empathy. We might not remember any of the principles today. But to be wise with empathy, wisdom, the reality is we have to understand when we're in one of these categories. If you're in the first category, people will call you cold. If you're in the second, people will think you're for them. You're a champion for them. And if you're in the third category, people are going to say, they're not going to last the year. I know well-intentioned leaders who've expressed this. They were armed, they were ready to go, and they're in the last category there, and they're like, I can't do it anymore. They let it catch up with them. So today, the tip is this. If you see it, if you name it, if you feel it, and you close the loop, this is going to help all of you when we talk about our empathy wisdom. When you see something happening, name it. Hey, I see you're going through this. I know it's a challenging time. When you express what they're feeling, and in the end, you got to put something in motion. So today, if you walk away with anything from this speech, if you want some wisdom in terms of empathy, I would say this. Name it, feel it, don't absorb it, but put it in motion, and then you'll live in that space of compassion, empathy, where we all should be. So thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy.